So like in today's session, what we are going to see is every fresher going into this companies as an 5 years IT professional or like 6 years IT professionals. So the companies expect you to behave or like do things in a professional way. So I mean, first thing is you have to be technically sound that you can get from technical trainings. So apart from that, if you are going in as an consultant, they expect you to follow some of the process and like as a fresher, like you need to embed these things like you are like you are actually an IT professional and like you have to think as an IT professional. I know like it will be hard for the first time like going into a company like pretending that you are having an experience and like you have to go in as an experienced professional and they are like two difficult things in like because I also went in the same way, so I know like what it how it will be going into a company. You will face two difficult things. One is the technical challenge and another is the new change in your thing because it's the first time you are doing as an software professional. So you don't know what are the things you have and like what are the like what is going on in the company and like how to configure things and all those things. So that is the non-technical thing. And the technical issues also you have, you don't know this is how it will be in the real-time project and all those things. So to overcome all these things, I think you should what do you say while learning itself. If you learn in a professional way, then you can easily like once you step into the job, like you can easily face those problems. Means for example. So, if you are going in as an IT professional, so there are like basic things you have to like keep that in mind like all the time. So, like for example, like the simple thing is once you step into the job, this is the first day of your job, and someone asks you like, what is your previous experience, or like where did you do or like what is your recent project. So those are very basic questions and any colleague or manager will ask, right? So you must be well prepared with that answers beforehand so that you will not like utter or like feel uncomfortable when they're asking questions because there will be routine questions. Where did you do your last job? Why did you move? And like what makes you to come to this company? Or like there'll be like very routine questions. So I'm gonna send you those routine questions also. So, but the main things what you're gonna do is like every time right from like starting of your training, like think as a professional. Means like once you get an issue like go into the Google and then figure out do some homework and then ask the trainer instead of just once you get an issue don't try to like depend on someone else. So also so what you do is do your homework, like Google that, try your own. If you're not getting it, you have to think the last thing is like asking someone. So you have to do all those homework, and then if you ask, then the same way it happens in the company too. Like, see, if you are having an issue, if you are just asking like that, if in return if they are asking any other technical questions relating to that, you will be in the deadlock. So before asking any questions or like any issues, just do your homework and then ask the questions. And then because like as you're not confident in the technical or like it's a new thing, you'll feel nervous to undergo all those things. Practice some of the things, means like just if an issue is there, how do you try to explain it to your coworker or your manager? Say like if you are an say suppose for simply you have an SQL question, I mean like SQL issue. So just frame it in your own sentences, so that think that you are asking this to your coworker or like manager, how do I find this data in these tables, or like how do we go with this logic, or like so think and like habituate like how do you really do in the company, like imagine like in the trainings also. So if you habituate that way in like at least 1 or 2 months, by the way you go into the job, you are already like habituated to that corporate style for 2 months. So you will not feel a very new thing, or like it's like very much like new world to you. So just if you do all those things, you feel confident while you're stepping into the job. Like rather than if you don't practice all these things, first day if you go to the job, the first problem you face is they will ask you, why did you move to the job? I mean, it's not that very important, but if you are confident of these simple things, that makes you like concentrate on the technical issues, because like these things are like not technical. So if you practice it for like 1 or 2 months, you will easily can get into it. So just like practice those routine questions, or like you can become like more confident by speaking to yourself, or like practicing the questions, or like just speak out, and you can go on those things. And then like you have to follow some standards while you're in a company, because if you are like 6 years 5 years professional, so you will be habituated for some kind of a process. For example, what is a process, right? So if they ask you to write a development, if there is a requirement document, that is fine, but some companies don't have a requirement document. So you have to write a small short requirement. Just it might be a very small, but just half-page document also it's fine. If you put in an heading as like requirement, this is what he has given to me, and if you laid out the steps, like what is the requirement and like how you are understanding that, if you have that in a written format, and then like once you like today your manager has given you a requirement by oral, for example, to just see like how you are doing it, because once if you are going as a consultant, there'll be a check for 15 to 1 month. So for that, some managers will test you by giving a small requirement. This is the requirement, just try it out. So for that things, if you write that in a document, I mean like just like four or 5 lines Word document, and like maintain that as a document, like tomorrow if manager comes in and asks like, what did you do on this requirement? Once if you open up the requirement or like send that requirement, the manager feels that you're experienced candidate, and you are maintaining the process and all. So first, that is the starting step. So being documented and following the process. So generally other things are, once if you are going in as an experienced professionals, there will be some kind of security things you have to follow in your company. Means like, for example, you should not you browse personal things, or like you should not use personal emails, something like that. All those things should be followed. Like if you think in that manner, you can feel more confident. And other important thing is, while you're writing code, right? Like if he's a really, if a manager wants to like directly know you are an experienced or non-experienced developer, you can easily make out by seeing your code, because like experienced developers like maintain the standards. Means like if you're writing SQL or like .NET, if say suppose if your lines they are like 100 lines of code, so if you write all the codes in like unformatted way, it will not work out at the time of issues and all. So if you write a code with all comments and like dividing it into process, say suppose you might be having 100 lines of code, but it has certain steps. Means like that 100 lines of code might have 10 steps. So divide that whole code into 10 steps, write that in comments, so that like even if you have issues or errors in that code, once manager sees that code, he'll feel confident, or like thinking that even if he has errors or like issues, he's following the standard. So he feels comfortable that if I keep this guy, like he's like more process oriented, following the standards. He seems to be experienced, so he will think in that manner. Even if you are not good at like technical things as you are a fresher, with these things you can just manipulate the manager or the company. So keep all documented, and you have to keep track of all the things. Like once if you are in the start, say suppose this is the starting day of your job, right? So there will be demos, like there will be like the manager will explain you what is their business, what is the project, and what is your role. Like write down all the things, and maintain that in a notebook or like in a Word document or something, so that like you will not miss any of the things. Like if you are experienced, right, there will be some kind of routine things, like you have to send weekly status, you have to send meeting schedules and all those things. It will be easy, but as you are a very fresher, it will be tough for you to analyze those things. If you write it down, make a note of it. So if you see a couple of times, you will get used to that. Like what are all the things I'm going to do, and like what it should be done, and all those things. And then like apart from the technical things, like if you see like what is like generally like you will be working on the projects, but you must be good at understanding the business process also. So like basically some of the projects involves more business process. Unless you understand the business process, you cannot implement anything in a technical scripts, right? So so if you are not understanding, ask couple of times, and do not ask very silly questions, so that they'll get to know that you are a fresher, or like you are not experienced professional. So ask some like if you don't ask also, that is fine, but just analyze things and then ask. And like end of the day, like say suppose if there is a requirement given to you today and you did not understand the business process, but tomorrow if the manager comes in and says, what did you do? If you did not understand the business logic itself, that is the first flaw. So like say suppose if you understood the business logic, at least you are like 20% or 30% ahead. And then if you are having errors or issues in a technical content, then you will go into the next 20-30%. If you are failing at understanding the business process itself, then like you cannot do anything. Even if you code or write script correctly, it doesn't matter to the company or the manager. unless you do it the right way the company wants. So these are the like basic things like an IT professional should have before going into a like company. So these things, like you think like it's very easy. I will do all these things, but I mean I also did the same mistake. But I realized that these are all very important. Only I struggled after stepping into the job. So because some of my friends and colleagues have practiced these kinds of things while they are in the training itself. Say suppose if you are in a training and then you are writing the SQL scripts or the .NET code or like any scripts. If you are habituating of writing these comments and like following the steps, then once you go into the company, it will not be a tough thing for you. It will not be a new thing for you. And the same way, like if you are having an issue, like you will discuss it with trainer or the other people in your group. So try to ask them in a way that you are asking a colleague or a manager, so that you will get habituated of asking or like raising the issues in an in a company. So do you feel like do you have any doubts, or like do you think do you have any questions where a new like a fresher will face these kind of problems, or like if you want to hear something like an advice, do you have anything? Or we can move forward. We can move forward.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me know like if you are having if you have any doubts or something like that, you can easily ask me, like I can explain out, or like tell you again. So if you are going in as an IT professional, like every software development will have a life cycle or a methodology uh, in that whole development. So if you are taking what are the basic steps involved in a software company is like they should be planning, means like the requirement gathering, means like say suppose if you are building a website, like first thing is what should be the content in the website and how many pages you should have in the website, and you should have all those things, right? I mean the requirement gathering and how you are doing it, that is the planning stage. And then you know like how many pages you should have, what are the images you have, I mean how many tabs you should have, and all those things. Now you are going into the development phase, and like how you are coding it and all those things, that is the development. Then as a developer, your main task is to do the unit testing, means like say suppose a manager gave you a requirement and like you have done it, and then how do you uh, test on your own? I mean like the testing done by the developer is called unit testing. So you will test this, and like the manager will come for the code review and ask you like how did you test this code, or like how did you test your scripts. You kind of tell like I have used these kind of scenarios or the test cases for my testing to verify that my code is working. So that is you will do in the code review. And like in the code review, all these things will matter, like how did you do your unit testing, and how did you do your comments, or like they are like certain things an experienced developer will do. Means like in the case of errors, what to do. Like you should have a long-term thing. It means like while a developer, you should think in a negative way. Means like what will happen. Like what are the maximum possible errors we can get by the script or like that. Like you have to code in that way, like such a way that if this error happens, like what should it do? I mean, you have to analyze all the things in your coding, and then you are going into the QA testing. Means like you have done everything, and like you are confident, and like you moved your code into the QA, and the tester now will test that in the QA testing. Once he feels comfortable, he will promote it. Otherwise, there will be bugs, and again it will be pushed back to the developer in the form of bugs, and you have to fix that and again release that, and it will again go to the testing. Once the QA testing is done, then it goes to the deployment. Means deployment, it's to the production. Means like going live. I mean, like where the real user is using your code or the script. So that is the actual once it is in the production, means like once it is live, the script is being used. So any software is not not 100% bug free, right? So it will have bugs or like issues. So again, it comes back to if it has any bugs, and again it has to go through the development, QA testing, deployment, and again like it's like going on cycle like for any software. So if you are seeing it as an image, so this is how it will be an like software development life cycle. So first it is the requirement analysis, then you design, implement it. I mean, implement it is like you are coding the script, testing it, and then pushing it to the live. And this process is like continuous process. So as like we have multiple ways of multiple methodologies in the software development life cycle, because you have different kinds of projects. I mean, like you have pharmacy projects, you have banking projects, you have a very big company, you have a small company. You have different parameters, right? Everyone cannot use a single model for their software development based on the scenarios, or based on the company, based on the project, based on the timelines. You have to pick a software life cycle, so which will fit your model or a project or a company, right? So these are the different kinds of software development life cycles out there. One is the waterfall model, one is the V-shaped model, and spiral method, iterative and incremental methods, extreme programming. And one of the popular methods is like the waterfall method. Means like this is the old, or like what do you say, like it's been used from decades. Means if you see this, right, like in the waterfall method, everything will be planned first, then everything will be developed, everything will be unit tested, everything will go to the testing, and then everything will be going into the deployment at once. It will be just and straight series, but not like iterative process. Means like like all planning will be done in like first 2 months. Like say if the project is for 1 year, in the first 2 months there will be full planning, and in the next 4 months it will be development, and in the next 2 months it will be testing, and the last 2 months will be for the like for the support or the bug fixes and all. So that is kind of an like the waterfall method, and then like that is the routine method. It will be used, and then you have the agile development. Agile development is like nowadays is like most popular, and like with the agile like development, like many software companies are like interested. I mean, like they are seeing more productivity rather than this regular waterfall method, because but every day like there is a change in the requirement or like that. So say in that 1 year project, if you have planned everything in the first 2 months, by the end of the project, if there is a change in the requirement, you are done. Like there is no way to change the requirement. So they are like facing those kinds of issues in a regular waterfall method. So they are going in for an agile development, means like and the new way of software life cycle, and that is called like the Agile Scrum, which is like nowadays popularly used in most of the companies. And then we'll see like really quick what is this Agile Scrum, and just to what do you say, if this is the first day of your company, like they'll ask like what is the SDLC methodology you have used in your recent company. You must be able to just speak some words, like just say if you follow, if you have said Agile Scrum, you must be knowing some terms and the process to speak out with them. Then then he feels that he knows something, and they will think that at least he knows some kind of SDLC process. So here is the simple thing, like we'll be learning in this agile, like the Agile Scrum. So we'll see like what is the functionality of this Agile Scrum, and what is its process, and what are the different roles involved in that process. So if you see the main bulleted points of the Agile Scrum, so here like the Agile Scrum is like more productive way, means like it gives more preference to the individuals and the interactions, means like if there is an issue, you have to talk to the manager or the business analyst, like rather than spending 2-3 hours of time writing an email, sending a request, or like more than the process, you have to interact with the individuals or the business people to get it resolved, like rather than wasting your time in the process. Then the other things in the Agile Scrum is like you will write a script, right? And you have to write a documentation for it. If the Agile Scrum says that you have to spend more time in making the code efficient, like rather than spending more time in documenting it, because like every time the code will be changing, and again you have to change the documentation. I mean, you should have documentation, but your most priority should be making your code perfect, or like you have to give the best code to the company. And then you have the Agile Scrum says you have to give the best customer collaboration and the interaction, like rather than negotiating with the contracts and all. Means like if you are giving a best like assistance to them, they will not worry about the contracts or the planning and everything like that. And then you should not follow blindly the plan, like it's like given. Say suppose if you have delivered a software, it's went out there, and then there is a new company doing that same way, then like you have to step on to that, and like then you have to react for that change. I mean, like you have to modify something to make it unique that your company will excel in that process. And like mostly these agile methodologies are used in the extreme programming, and like this is like more it's like different from the waterfall method. Means like everything will be in the sequential. In Agile Scrum, everything will be in iterative process. Means like like for example, we took, like if the project deadline is for like 1 year, so in the waterfall method you are doing it as like first 2 months planning, next 4 months development, and next 2 months testing, like that. But in Agile, in first 1 month it's you will have chunks of deadlines. Like in the first 1 month itself, you will have one small requirement as like planning, then you will do development, testing, and deploy, and then you will pick the small requirement and then develop it, test it, and deploy it. So it will be an iterative process, like rather than taking all taking the whole requirements at once and going like that. So one of the biggest characteristics of the Scrum is like you will have more self-organizing teams, like rather than like having a pyramid kind of. Means like manager, senior manager, all kinds of hierarchies are not. It will be very flat. Like everyone has their own decent role in this Agile Scrum, and there is no specific practices you have to follow, like based on your based on your company and the members in your Scrum. Like you can design your own way of process. So this is how like Scrum works. Like if you are seeing this, like you have the product backlog. Like what is this product backlog is? Like there is, we'll take the same example of building a website, right? So you have different requirements. Like first requirement is gathering all the content. So gathering all the content, and next requirement is gathering all the images, and next requirement is how many tabs it should have, and the next requirement is what is the security. So if you pick a requirement like getting all the images and like how you are uploading it to a website, so you will pick that one you will have that all requirements. Each requirement is called a product backlog. And then say suppose for building a website you have 20 requirements, and then you will like that is your whole set of requirements, and then for every section, like we told, it's an iterative process, right? So you will be doing all planning, development, testing, and all in cycles. So each cycle is called here a sprint. So in that sprint, like generally they say in a sprint you will have 2 to 4 weeks. We'll take it as 4 weeks. So in 4 weeks itself, you will pick a requirement. For example, you will pick like uploading images to a website. So you will pick that requirement. You will develop a code to do that, and then you will test it, and then you must be able to deploy it by end of that sprint. You must be able to see images in that website. So that should be goal for your for that sprint, like attaining that particular requirement. See, like this is like first cycle is getting the images done, right? So second cycle is getting the security done. So by each end of the sprint, you should attain that things. Say suppose if you are following the old method, you will have all the security images and all. First you plan everything, you will move forward. once it is in the testing thing, you find there are some security issues. So you cannot go back. And again, you have to start development and all those things. But if you are doing this iterative process, like you can avoid this like requirement changes and all those roadblocks. See, if you see like what are all the things involved in this in this Scrum is you should have a planning meeting, because if you spend more time in understanding the requirement, it makes developers life easier, and like easily can code. Say suppose if he's spending less time in understanding the business process or the requirement, he should break his head like by developing. So if you spend some decent amount of time like upfront before coding, like understanding what is the requirement, how much time it will take and all those things, it be very beneficial. And then you have the sprint, and then you have a daily scrum. Like instead of scheduling the regular meetings, like in the Scrum methodology, they say that every day morning or like anytime you should have a stand-up meeting. Means it's not like a regular meeting. Everyone will sit, relax like that. Like everyone will come, like stand up there and see. Like they will raise issues, like what is blocking them, like moving forward. Say suppose you are doing this like images, and one of the developer has an issue that like some of the images are like too big, some of the images are like too small. So you should come up with standards. So that is an issue. He was not able to move forward. So he will ask that to the team, and like someone will give an suggestion, or like the manager will throw out his thoughts on it, like that. Like once he gets that thought, he will implement it, like rather than like setting up a meeting and all those things. So every day there will be a stand up where they can raise issues, like which is blocking them moving forward. And then by the end of the sprint, like the life cycle, there will be review meeting. Means like say suppose you have developed in the sprint the images. So as a developer, yeah, you will do all those things, and then there will be business users. So you will show them that this is how images will be seen in the website. If there is any change, if the business thinks this is not the way they are expecting, they can again get back to you, and you will raise that as a defect or a bug, and then you will implement. I mean, like rectify that in the next sprint, like that. See, if you see, this is the old waterfall method. You will have requirements, design, coding, and then testing. It's a like sequential thing. But if there is an overlap method, like this is the planning, right? See, this plan, like the time you are passing, like the first planning will be done, and see the testing is also done in the same way. Like in this waterfall method, the main drawback is like if you are in the testing stage and business thinks this will not work out, or like you have to change for the request, again you have to go back, which is like not possible. But in this overlapping thing, like with this Agile Scrum, you can easily do that, because you did not end the planning process until like one stage. You will be doing the requirements, you will be refining the requirements each and every sprint. So that is the biggest advantage of this Agile Scrum. And other things is, once at the starting of the sprint, you will take, for example, you have said for this sprint, like we'll take the same example, like you have to upload images into your website, right? So or like there is some other person comes in and says security is important, we'll do security instead of email. That should not be that should not be allowed. Once the requirement is fixed for the sprint, you have to go with it. You have to get the coding done and testing done, and you should see that images in the website once you complete the sprint. Like you cannot change the requirements during a sprint. And then you have different kinds of roles in the Agile Scrum. You have product owner, means like the product owner is like the business analyst or the one like who is managing the project, and there'll be the Scrum Master. Like the Scrum Master is one who is responsible to see that are they following the agile standards or not. Like say suppose if team member comes, I will take the same example. If the team member comes and says we have to do like implement security like right away, like someone is asking, then you should come and say this is the sprint for uploading images. We cannot do it. That is not allowed in the Agile Scrum. Like so the Scrum Master does that. Like he is the one who is there to like make Scrum go in a smooth manner. And like say suppose if for some issues you are not going forward in this requirement, means like uploading images, you have some issues, means you have some formatting issues like that. So you have to like any team, if any team member has that, he will raise that to a Scrum Master, and Scrum Master's responsibility is to remove that obstacles. Means like he will talk to an formatter or like the designer, who can resolve that problem. So like the Scrum Master is one like who will remove all the obstacles and makes the Scrum processing easy. And these are the features of the product owner. Like the product owner is something like an manager, but like technically the manager is not like cannot be, cannot be an product owner, they say technically, but most of the companies have managers as product owners. So product owner is one who will decide what are we going to have in this sprint, in this cycle, and what I mean, say suppose there will not be just one requirement, right? For a cycle, there will be some small 2-3 requirements. In that 2-3 requirements, what is the priority of the requirements like that should be worked on? Like he's the one who will to prioritize the tasks, or like which should be done afterward, like that. Then the Scrum Master, like he represents like the Scrum standards, and like if anyone is like facing problems, or like if anyone is like deviating from the Scrum standards, like he's the one who will say like this is the way you should do it, like that. Then generally we should have 5 to 10 people in this Agile Scrum. Like generally 5 people is like very ideal. And this is the whole Scrum thing. Like if you see, like first you should have the product backlogs, means the requirements, and then you should have the planning meeting, and then you should have the development, and you can achieve the sprint goal. And then as we discussed, every day you should have daily stand-up, which will discuss like you have to raise any obstacles you have, any issues you have. And in the review meeting, you have to expose your code to the business user or an or the business analyst, like who is the end user, like using your code or the development. And then you have a retrospective, means like this is internal to the team, means like in this sprint we had too many issues, so that is one of the things. So at the end of the sprint you will have this, you will have this thing called retrospective, in which in which like you can raise this issue, like we are having more security issues, so then you should come up with a plan saying that like how can we resolve, like you can have another requirement like to reduce the security issues. So or like people are taking more time in the planning, so that is an issue, so you can rectify that in the next sprint. So what are the issues you are having like in the sprint, like you can raise all those things in the retrospective. And this is how you maintain the product backlog, means like what are the requirements you have and what is the priority. If you see here, like there's a priority, like these are a very high priority, you have to get things done at any cost. These all requirements. Then these are the next high priority things, and these are the next priority things in all product backlogs. And then you will have a sprint burn down chart, means like it will show you for this sprint like you have taken two requirements and you are coming to an end of the sprint, so you must be almost done, right? So it will show you the graph, like at which level you are in that sprint. See, if you are coming to the end of the sprint, the remaining work should be very less, means like 5%, 10%. So everyone will log their hours and everything. So by you are in the last second day of the sprint, and still the remaining work is like too much. Like still there is 50 hours worth of work, but still there is only 2 days left. That means like 16 hours, right? 16 working hours you have, but you have 40 to 50 hours worth of work. So it's like very bad. Like you have to do something to do it. So for those kinds of analysis, you will have this sprint burn down chart, means like it shows you in like what is the date and like what is the remaining amount of work for the sprint. Like it's just like an you can say as a progress report, and that's all. Like so, this is like very short. Like the brief view of the agile methodology and the SDLC. I was fast because if you're going in depth, like you might not be understanding and you feel bored. But like I will send all of you this PPT and the recording. Just go through it and get used to these kinds of process before you go into the company, so that at least by process oriented way you will not feel difficulty. Like anyway, like technically you will feel some issues, but at least you will feel confident with some of the process and like the way they are doing in the company and all those things. So if you want me to arrange any mock interviews or like you can follow these standards like really in the training, and I bet like you will feel very comfortable while you step into the job. That means like how you document it. Like these are the very common, routine, boring things everyone knows to do, but like it becomes difficult only when you implement these. So that is what I have today. If you have any questions and all, like you can ask.
Yeah, Naren, I had one question with you.
Yeah, sure.
So, what is the 3-tier architecture in Agile method?
Yeah, what is that?
3-tier architecture.
3-tier Like where is that?
Yeah. No, it's not there, but I'm just asking, I mean, because I saw somewhere, maybe in school or somewhere. So the three, in the Agile methodology, is a three-tier architecture.
3T?
A three-tier architecture.
Three-tier. I mean, I don't know, like three-tier architecture. That is
That might.
architecture, I think, means like if you are seeing any architecture, there will be levels. Means like the first level is is what you say the front end, means the website. So the next is there'll be a business layer, means
Okay.
for example, if you think what if you think an example of an Amazon, right? Like you are ordering something, so you will go to Amazon.com and you will see the product and uh, and you will do an order and you will give your credit card information. So that is the front end, what you all see. In the back end, it should have different process going on. Means like it should see the order processing. Means like what is the product, where is the product, where it has to be shipped, and like Amazon have many warehouses. So which warehouse like you are near to, and from which vendor. So it has to do all that background work in the back end. So that is all in the business layer. And then once if it is all done, then it goes to ultimately into the database, right? So that is the ultimate where data relies, right? I mean like where data will be in the database. So that is the third. The third part. Maybe I think they are talking about that three-tier architecture. I'm thinking, and like based on the company,
Yeah.
some people will have another layer called security, mainly for this. What do you say? These financial companies or the banking companies, they'll have the security layers and all those things.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, I was looking to
Yeah.
Google, you were right. First is the front end user interface, and the middle is database, no?
Yeah.
Sorry, business logic, and after that, database and programming.
Yeah, exactly.
So third type is the
And like other one important thing you should be able to do that once you step into the company is like you should be asking some of the documentation like proactively. Means like say if you are first day in the job and for example there is no PC or laptop or like still you don't have some access. So instead of sitting idle or like seeing your personal emails or Facebook, just try to see whatever documentation is there, try to read it because obviously you will not understand it. It will be something like Greek and Arabic, but try to read something or like dig into the code or like that so that you can how well you are habituated to the business process or the company like the company coding. You will be you will feel comfortable because like I have done some of the mistakes and like I'm regretting because at first in the first job it took me like 2 to 3 days getting me the access, and I was like just having fun seeing some websites like that. But if I have spent some time in like reading the documents and doing like asking the co-worker or like the colleagues like what are the standards you follow and like what is the process you follow and like can you explain me like what are the things that will be like what can I expect like what kind of tasks like that, like if you ask more they tell you more.
Okay.
Yeah. But like try to follow some of the things so that you will not feel more like what you say, uncomfortable, like going into the job, or like when you are facing in the interview. Because some of the guys, because one of my interviews, when I cracked the interview only because of what you say, this Agile Scrum, because that guy is an American and is like very fond of process oriented. So he thinks in such a way that if you know the process, like he can mold you for the technical things. He's such a kind of a guy. So like he just asked me like, how did you follow the Scrum things? And like I explained him, this is how we follow the cycles, and like this is how we log the things. And he was impressed by the way I'm explaining the process I followed in my recent project. And in that way he got impressed, and he asked like hardly like 3-4 questions, that's it, technically, because like he felt comfortable that I can do the job. And other things is like, if you're asking me in the technical way what are the things you want, so first and foremost thing in any interview or like in any company, they'll ask, what did you do in your recent project? Means to get the feel of the things like what you are capable of. If you are able to like speak out what did you do in your recent project, that's it. Like you are 50% or 60% of your judgment is done there, because like what does he observes is like how you are narrating an requirement or the process. So by that way he will know like your communication skills, and then by the and he know, and he will ask like, and he will see like what are the technical things he have done in the previous project that he can use for this project. And then he will ask like what are the difficult things you faced in your recent project. By that he will come to know like how do you solve the problems, like how do you face the problems. Means like he will ask what is the most difficult thing you have encountered in your recent project. That is basic, very routine question like added to this, like what is your recent project. And then if you are very good at these basic routine questions, right, he will go less depth into the actual technical questions, because in these first two three questions only you are giving him an confidence that you can do his job. So that is what I can suggest you to just practice like the first thing, practice like how do you narrate your recent project. That is the best thing where you can like grab interviewer's attention or your manager's attention. Yeah, that's it. I have like, if you have any other questions, or like if you have any other things about the training to discuss, or like you are free to talk.